everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here early, and a very warm welcome to the Smart Nation and You Let's Learn webinar on applied creativity, focusing on innovative solution finding. Now, NTUC Learning Hub is proud to be the official continuing education and training provider, powering the Let's Learn segment of this exciting event with something for everyone. So thank you so much. You guys are the early birds, and the webinar will be starting shortly. Now, do stay all the way till the end because we do have a post-webinar survey, and 2 participants who complete the survey will win $10 fair price online vouchers. Now, for the busy professionals who prefer learning at your own pace, NTUC Learning Hub has made learning accessible anytime, anywhere through the online learning platform LHub Go. To help kickstart your learning journeys, we will be offering you LHub Go Discover 25 at just $20. Now, this is an exclusive deal for all webinar attendees only, where each online lesson works out to be less than $1. I will be returning shortly to start the session. Meanwhile, so please sit back, relax, and we'll see you soon. A very good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to the Smart Nation and You Let's Learn webinar on applied creativity, focusing on innovative solution finding. My name is Karen, and I'll be your host for today. Now, Singapore Smart Nation initiative is all about using technology to improve the way we live, we work, and we play. And in order to realize this vision, it is important for Singaporeans to be equipped with digital skills, so that all of us can take advantage of new, exciting job opportunities, especially during this period of time when many of us are concerned about our careers. Now, this is why the Smart Nation and Digital Government Office and NTUC Learning Hub are glad to bring to you the Smart Nation and You Let's Learn Festival. NTUC Learning Hub is proud to be the official continuing education and training provider, powering the Let's Learn segment of this exciting event with something for everyone. Now, today's webinar is on applied creativity, focusing on innovative solution finding. Do note that this session will be recorded, so if you'd like to recap your learnings, you can visit the Smart Nation YouTube channel as well as NTUC Learning Hub. A recording of the various sessions will be made available about 2 weeks after the festival. Now, I'd also like to encourage all of you to stay till the end because we do have a post-webinar survey, and 2 participants who complete this survey will win $10 Fair Price online vouchers. On top of that, you can also participate in the Let's Learn contest and stand to win $100 Fair Price online vouchers. Simply, scan the QR code or visit this link on screen to find out more. We will also be sharing this QR code and link again at the end of the webinar. So everybody, today we have with us Eric. He is one of the global master trainers accredited by Think Busan in UK. And since 2006, he has been training organizations in the Tony Busan's techniques, teaching over 10,000 executives, teachers, and students across Asia. So if you've got any questions for Eric throughout the class, feel free to use the Q&A function at any time, and he'll do his best to answer your queries. So without further ado, everybody, I hand you over to Eric. Eric, please.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to my seminar. Hi. It's great to have all of you here to join me in this seminar, in this 2 hours of talking about creativity and how do we generate ideas and help us to find more solutions to today's issues and challenges at work. So let me start off by putting up my screen here. Right. Well, I'm sure you heard of news about going back to office on the 5th of April. So I'm not sure whether that's going to be a good news to you or maybe a not so good news, because you still have to get back to adjusting to your work life, right? So I'm sure that you may have been so habitual in terms of working from home and doing many things at your own time and flexible tasks, So in terms of getting ourselves ready, there is a way to change our mindset, right? We need to adopt a new mindset in order to overcome the challenges that we may face, So let me just quickly move on to housekeeping, right? So I would invite you to bring a blank paper for this session, because there will be some activities that we'll be doing. And of course, if you have color pens, that'd be great. And also some drinks, right? Throughout the whole 2 hours, you need to have fluid in your body, because that's how you can refresh your brain, allow your thinking to be fresh. Yeah. And throughout the session, if you do have questions, I would like to invite you to post them at that Q&A icon at the menu. And I would also be interacting with you with some quick informal questions. Then you can answer me in that chat function, right? So there's a chat where you and I will interact, and there'll be a Q&A function where you can post your questions there, and I will answer them as quickly as I can. Okay, great. Now, before we start into the proper topic, I would like to poll some questions for you. So let me just launch the first question, right? You should see on your screen, the first question is, what are the thinking issues would you encounter on a regular basis? All right, so you can choose more than one. Yes, I see many of you have chosen hard to concentrate. Yeah, whether you have challenges in forgetting things easily, not being creative, or problems that you cannot solve. Are you able to make quick decisions? Maybe there are challenges that you cannot communicate effectively, or tends to procrastinate, right? There's no right or wrong answer. And I'm sure many of us do have just more than one. Yeah. I do have 2% of people that says none of the above. Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Now I'm going to end this polling. And let's see the results. Right. So the highest score here is hard to concentrate. Yeah. 45%. 46% is making clear and quick decisions. That's the highest. Interesting. Yeah. All of us tends to be trying to sort out the problem and understand the root of the problem before we make that decision. Yeah, possibly that's the issue. Hard to concentrate, 45%, moving down to tends to procrastinate. Yeah, that's one of my issue as well. Those are the top 3. Good. Let me also do a second polling question. Yeah. So can I have the second polling question? Yes. Okay, good. Now, on the scale of 1 to 100, how creative do you think you are? Okay, so you have 5 choices, 1 to 20. Now, 1 is not creative at all. 21 to 50 is somewhat creative. 51 to 70 is fairly creative, and 71 to 90 is very creative. 91 to 100% is creative genius level. All right. Interestingly, I have 2%. 3 of you have indicated you're at the genius level. That's fantastic. Great. This is a very interesting finding because usually I have many participants that will indicate less than 20%. That's usually is a majority. Now I'm seeing 42% of people with 51 to 70% of creativity level. Great. Now I'm just going to end the polling and share the results. Yes, so majority of you indicated that your creativity level is 51 to 70. Now, I do encourage you to be motivated to believe that you are creative, yeah, because maybe at times you find that, how come I just cannot generate ideas? I just get stuck in my thinking when I just also forget things quite easily, yeah. So usually people will tend to be very conservative and put less than 20. But the majority of you have indicated fairly good, fairly creative, and that I would really encourage you to be confident of your creativity level. Very good. All right, so let me go to the next polling question. Okay, have you used any thinking techniques or visual tools to help you generate ideas? You can choose more than one answer. Okay, so you can say, oh yeah, I have used some thinking techniques, I have used some visual tools, or you don't use any techniques nor tools. Okay, interesting finding here. Majority of you have chosen no, I don't use any techniques or tools. Okay. Let me just wait for another 5 seconds. And stop. Yes, so this is the result. 52% of you indicated that you don't use any techniques nor tools. Now that's good because we are here to learn about the thinking techniques and the tools, right? So that's the purpose and the objective of today's session, right? That we'll talk about more what is creativity and what kind of thinking techniques can we adopt. And of course, I will introduce a tool that you can use to be more creative. Now, let me move on to talk a little bit about myself, what I do for the last 15 years, okay? Now, I have the opportunity to work with the international thinkers around the world, like Professor Tony Buzan, Dr. Marilee Adams, Michael Gelb, who is the famous author for thinking, how to think like Leonardo da Vinci. And Dr. Marilee Adams is the lady that has originated question thinking. And of course, Professor Tony Buzan was the originator of mind mapping and memory techniques. And of course, this gentleman here, you see a big group of people with 4 different colors and shapes behind this as the backdrop. That is Greg Barnes, who is the founder of Click Colors, and it is a profiling tool for personality, right? Getting to know yourself better. And throughout my training career, I've been doing training across Asia, like Hong Kong, China, Vietnam, Thailand. And I do specialize in the technique of mind mapping and memory techniques and speed reading. But I think the most important part about my workshop is really to let you understand a little bit more about how you think. And that's really so important, because once you know the way you think, you are able to look at the gaps. You are able to understand where your blind spots are. And when you understand sometimes there is certain thinking habits that are very natural to you, then you are able to make a conscious effort to step up, to maybe update your thinking model. So the purpose of today's 2 hours webinar session is to understand what's going on around us, how the world has evolved. And we all talk about disruption. We may have heard about AI, which is a big feature of Industry 4.0. We have asked ourselves, in this digital transformation, in this disrupted world, how can I be relevant in today's world? Now, that is the most important question. Before that, we also want to understand the way that we think. Because once you know how your natural thinking habits are, you then can see the gap. You then can make adjustment. So how do we think out of the box? How do we activate our creative mindset? And then, of course, certain techniques that you can adopt to be more creative and generate more ideas. We'll also get into solving problems, finding solutions, all right? And how do we innovate? And there is a visual tool called AYOA that you can actually download for free to use it for your collaboration and your real-time generating ideas and things like that. And of course, at the last part of it is a small little contest challenge that you may like to adopt the techniques that you have learned, and then you can actually enter the contest. Yeah. So as I mentioned, at the end of the 2 hours, I hope you could be able to have these 4 things, right? We're going to investigate the world, how the world has evolved so quickly and how it impacts our lives, both the family life and also our corporate working life, and recognize that we do have certain thinking habits that are outdated, and it is time for us to update that. And hopefully we could reskill our thinking techniques to brainstorm faster, focus on solution finding and innovate. And last but not least is the AYOA visual tool that I can introduce to you and do a quick demo. Great. Now, the first question I have for you, please participate in the chat function. Do you think knowledge is power? Do you agree or not? Right, so let me understand whether you agree that knowledge is power. All right, type it in the chat function. Yes. All right, I have most of you say yes, you all do agree, and some people would say, well, depends, 50-50. Yes, agree. Yes, some of you have said depends. And one of you said not, only if you apply. Very good. And so you would have a group of people that have heard of this before, and some of you have really adopt a on the fence, so-called, you're asking yourself, what if I do have knowledge? And what if I don't have knowledge? And what if knowledge in today's context, what does that mean? Right? So this phrase, knowledge is power, actually has a long history. It was actually Sir Francis Bacon who came out this book that he wrote, and he said, censure potential est, which is knowledge is power. Now, in the olden days when communication and there's no such thing as internet, knowledge is considered very exclusive. And once you have the latest information, maybe about technology or pricing, product pricing, you are able to contain the market. You're able to control, right, demand and supply. But we are moving into a digital transformation world. So in terms of information, it's easily available, highly accessible. So in terms of knowledge, everyone who has a computer and connect to the internet can access to knowledge. So is it still relevant today? The question may not be the same. And if everyone has access to the same knowledge, what is this knowledge be of value, right? It tends to be diminishing in value. If all of us can find out the latest pricing, find out the latest technology, and all of us are highly informed. So then the question will lead on to, how do we acquire the value in knowledge? It's actually a concept of how do we acquire new knowledge? And to attain new knowledge, what does that lead to? It means that we have to create, right? It comes into create. Let us also look into the evolution of the industry. In the very olden days, we start off with Industrial Revolution, and that's where Industry 1.0 started in terms of machines. The steam turbine was being invented, cars was being invented, production was increased, and that's actually mechanization and introduction of steam and water power. Moving on is where assembly lines, the introduction of electrical power, and things can happen so fast, efficiency went up. And Industry 3.0, we are looking at automation, computers coming in, able to get things designed quickly, able to send things across, and of course, robots at some parts. And we are into Industry 4.0, where we talk about smart factory, and in almost every industries, AI has been introduced. Like we have heard of machine language, machine learning and deep learning, and IoT, Internet of Things. So with all this development in our industries today, the question is, how does it affect you? What are the impacts to your lives, right? I'd like you to watch a video. And after that, I would like you to take a blank piece of paper, and I want you to put down your thoughts and ideas about the VUCA world. All right, in this video, they will explain what is the VUCA world, and put down your ideas in terms of how it will impact your life. All right, so let me just turn up the video. Okay, I understand that the video is not playing, so hang on. Let me do that again. Okay, good. Can I invite you to take out a piece of blank paper? And we would be able to think about this topic. Yes. So in the video, there's this concept about the VUCA world and volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Kind of describe what is happening around the world right now. And this term is actually coined by the US military sometime in the 90s. It is used to describe the surroundings and the environment, the economy, and the market. And isn't it true that we now find that there are a handful of companies, we call them the app companies or the platform companies, that are the disruptors. And what they did was they come up with the technology to, of course, their innovation was able to change their game, all right? And many of the traditional companies, the Fortune 500s, they may not be around today. It's either they have been acquired or they kind of lose the market share. And the most interesting thing, if you have noticed, for example, Alibaba, and in just one single day, they were able to achieve close to $1 billion of revenue. And that is really mind-boggling. In just one day of sales revenue, they're able to achieve that. And of course, Airbnb, they are a company that don't even own assets, right? They don't own any properties, but they are able to command such a high revenue because of transactions that people make use of their platform. And Uber, of course, all right, a car riding platform that's also able to generate high revenue just in a single day around the world. So think about this. The world that we're living in is not the same as compared to the last 5 years or even 10 years. right? Other than talking about the disruptors, we do have the pandemic, the reason why you're all here on Zoom instead of a physical class is because of pandemic measures. So we are also facing things like economic market conditions. We're not sure. Things are highly volatile now. And of course, Industry 4.0 and digital transformation. And the big question I have for you is, what's your perspective? What is your perspective in terms of the VUCA world? With the piece of paper you have, I want you to think about what are the impacts of the VUCA world, both positive and negative, affecting your life and the areas of work and family. So we're going to take the next 1 minute to think about the impacts that will affect us. Okay, and as you can see, there are 4 different aspects: the positive aspect, the negative aspect, and of course, in terms of your life, how does it affect your family life and your work life, right? So these are the 4 aspects. So in the next 1 minute or so, would you put down your ideas, and then we'll run through it very quickly after that. Half a minute. So the question that you want to ponder is to understand that the world has evolved so quickly. How does that impact our lives? And I want you to look into not just the negative, but of course, do understand there's positives part of it. 2 aspects in your life: working aspect, and of course, your family aspect. Another 10 seconds. Put down on the piece of paper so it could be easier for you rather than type it into the chat, right? Put your opinions and your ideas onto a blank piece of paper, write it down. Okay, good. Now, the next part of it, I would like you to count how many ideas have you come up with, all right? You can just count on the 4 different aspects: positive, negative, and then how they affect your life and your family and work, right? So count how many ideas have you generated. All right. Now, I want you to reflect on your thinking just now when you were focusing on the topic about the VUCA world and the impacts. So I want you to ponder about the way that you brainstorm, right? So in this context, we are brainstorm ideas on our own, right, instead of a group. Now, I want you to also ask yourself another question is, how do you usually brainstorm when you have different members in a group? All right, at the workplace, how do you do your brainstorming? And also, following by the next question is, do you think there's anything wrong with the way we think? And who has actually taught us how to think effectively? Right? Usually for this exercise, you may get stuck at some point. You may also find that you take too long to come up your thoughts and your ideas. You may also find that somehow you got not very good points, right? So we want to explore two areas: the quantity of ideas that you have and the quality of ideas that you have, right? And the last question is, do you think there's a right way of thinking? And if there is a right way, how do we optimize our brain power to become more creative? Okay. And the question I would like to ask is that, do you have a brainstorm session that is more like the left side of the screen, where everybody is happy with the smiling faces after you do a very nice brainstorm, or the right-hand side image where you see, hey, everybody's fighting because every one of their opinions are very strong and you tend to be arguing a lot? Yeah. So I like to explore a little bit about our thinking model, and also ask the question, is our thinking model outdated? Now, if I were to ask you, how are we taught to think in school? Some of you may have left school like 20 years, 30 years, all right? Like myself, close to 35 years. The question is, what has been taught in school in terms of the subjects? What subjects are considered to be very important and what subjects are not so important? How are we being tested? Is it by how much we know or by how we think, right? And also the last question is, how would you choose someone to give you the fish to eat or someone to teach you how to fish? Now, if you go through the same education like me, and of course around the world as well, and mostly in Asian education system, the subjects that are very important are the sciences, the maths, and the languages. And somehow or other, subjects like so-called music, even fitness programs, or even poetry, or even drawing, they are not so important. Now, I'd like to impress upon you that in the olden civilization, in Rome and the Greeks, when their children are 13 years old and 14 years old, they already master at least 2 to 3 languages. And they are proficient in philosophy. They are also excelling in sports. And they also know how to play at least 2 instruments, musical instruments. Now, why is it that in the olden days, these subjects are so important? Because it developed the brain, the left and the right. We tend to be very dominant in our left brain, which is the logic and analysis, is because those are considered to be important in today's world, so-called, because logic plays a very high level in solving problems. But many of us tend to forget that the right brain, which is the brain skills to recognize colors, to be able to get involved in rhythms, understand spatial and colors and shapes, and even imagination. Those are extremely important as well. But it is the way that we are being educated in school that only the left brain is being emphasized. So most importantly, the point here is that how do we get back our right brain and combine with the left brain to have a whole brain approach in terms of thinking, in terms of solving issues? And in fact, the answer to it is that creativity lies in the synergy of the 2 brains, not just the left but the right must come together. So of course, the answer to your third question is we definitely prefer the skill of fishing, because if you rely on someone to eat the fish and if that someone is not with you, you may starve to death, right? But if you learn how to fish, that's where as soon as you are hungry, you can really do it yourself. It's the same thing for thinking. You don't want to be fed with the content, but you want to understand how can I gather the knowledge? What's the skill of gathering the knowledge? What is critical thinking? What is creative thinking? What is divergent and convergent thinking? Right? These are important aspects of being skillful in our thinking. Now, we also want to understand that our box, when we were young, we definitely need to rely on our teachers to guide us, all right, to guide us on how we think. But in most of the schools that we were going through in terms of education system, their focus was on the content, the curriculum, rather than the skills. So we need to get back the skills, right, to know what are the techniques. And as we grow older, we tend to get so used to the box that we have. And then we rely on it so much, we find it so hard to think outside the box. And now that we want to activate our creative thinking, we must first know what is the boundaries, what's the constraints that we have in our thinking habits, so that we can really step out of the box and be independent thinkers. So this is the message, right? We really have to get back the skills of thinking so that we can ride the wave of the changing world. Now, just now when I asked you to do that personal, individual brainstorm about the VUCA world, the impacts, many of you may have just written down your ideas line by line. Now ask yourself, why do you go by line in your writing? Why didn't you think about, maybe that's a more efficient way? I could actually take the piece of paper and quickly fold it into quarters, right? Into half and then into quarters. And then I have 4 categories. The column on your left is negative impacts. The column on the right is positive impacts. The one on the top row is workplace and the bottom row is family. So when you are able to create a structure, you are able to drop the ideas in the right quadrant as ideas flow. Because our brain really processes very quickly and it can think very quickly and sometimes very randomly. So if you don't have a structure, you tend to be writing just line after line. But if you have certain box or category that you can set up with, you can actually drop the ideas as it comes. So that's actually very quick. So guess what? If you have adopted a certain structure in your thinking, you could make your thinking process faster, right? It is actually a very simple thinking exercise. So in whatever that you adopt on or approach, let's say a problem, the first thing is ask yourself, how should I be thinking? That's your first step. How should I plan to activate my thinking? Do I adopt a certain model, a structure to help me along the way? Or I may even employ certain tools to help me do it faster, right? Don't just go straight into writing down your ideas, all right? So that's the first step to introduce to you that with a thinking model, you are able to put down your ideas quicker at the right place, all right? Because random thoughts that comes, all right, sometimes if you just go line by line, you get stuck somewhere, all right? Some of you may think that, oh, maybe let me focus on the negative impacts first. Then after that, okay, after I finish my negative impacts, I want to go into the positive impacts. Oh, then after that, I will do my workplace, and then after I do my family. So you have a very linear way of thinking. Now ask yourself, do you think your brain thinks linearly? Not really, right? Our brains don't think linearly. So if we could change and update our linear thinking, we want to approach the matter into the way that the brain has been set up for. And the brain, I can tell you, thinks radiantly, starting from the focal point and branches out, just like the mind map. Yeah. So I want to introduce to you a very easy and simple 5 steps brainstorming technique. You could do it on your own, or this 5 steps is usually adopted in a group. When you have a group brainstorm session, you have a few members, this is how you should do. If you ask yourself, when you're in the office and then you have a problem and then your team gets together and then you start to brainstorm, how do you approach that brainstorm session? And I can tell you 10 companies that I asked, 9 of them would say, oh, we just start talking. Yeah, we just start talking. If someone has a point, he'll voice it out. And then guess what? After the first person voice out, the other people will listen. And then some of you would say, hey, this idea may not be that good. I think it should be like this. Then you say your ideas. Then the first person who suggested his ideas will be thinking, no, that's not what I meant. I mean this way. And then he will elaborate and explain. Then the second person will also come back and say, oh yeah, but I don't agree this point. And then he will introduce another point. So guess what? When the first person suggested the idea, the second person comes out is usually to critique the first idea. And then the first person will again stand up and defend his ideas. And then you see this like a ping pong match. The first person hits the ball, the second person catch the ball and hits back. And the rest of the people in the group is just listening and not doing anything. And guess what? Many of them will be influenced and to take sides. Should I take side with the first person or the second person? So this is how conventionally many brainstorm groups work. And guess what? After 1 hour, you tend to have just 1 or 2 ideas because many of the ideas has been censored or filtered down. So in actually a brainstorm session, you have to ask your question, what is the objective of brainstorming? Many of them will answer, oh, the objective of brainstorming is get the best ideas. Now, let me prove you differently. It is really not getting the best ideas, but it's really about getting the most number of ideas, the quantity of ideas. So when you do your brainstorm process, you need to focus on quantity of ideas. How do we do that? First step is the I, which I call it the individual thinking. Now, imagine you're in a group and you are starting up with a problem, a topic, and then before you get to do anything, make sure that everybody has pieces of paper and pens, and then you said, okay, this is a topic. For example, the topic could be, how do we increase sales revenue in the next quarter? That's the topic. All right. Then you said for the next 5 to 7 minutes, all of you would move to your own corners, and then I want you all to engage in your own thinking. Do not talk, do not discuss. All right, that's the first step. So when you're moving to the different corners, you have time to settle down. You need to focus on the topic, and then you jot down. Now, of course, depending on how complex the topic is, you could create a structure, as I mentioned, on the paper, or you can use a mind map to generate your ideas. Now, once you have that, you come back to the group. All right, you get into the second step. The second step is deposit your ideas. If you have, and I would recommend 5 to 7 people in a brainstorm group, don't get anything more than 7 because that's going to delay and stretch the whole timing. You move into depositing ideas. This is the part when everyone will have a chance of 1 minute to list down what they have taught. All right, what their ideas are. Now, this is the part that it is only 1 minute. And if you have 20, 30 points, make sure you just pick up the best 10 or 15 because you only have 1 minute. All right. So the first person will list out all the ideas that he has. After the 1 minute is up, you move on to the second person, list out all the ideas that the second person has, and then third and fourth and fifth. Now, guess what? When you do that, everybody has a chance to contribute the ideas. And you are not influencing one another because you already pre-written all your ideas down, right? Imagine in your traditional brainstorm, sometimes when a person becomes very vocal, and it could be because the person came from a bad meeting or had an accident on the road and come back to have this brainstorm session, or even got scolded by the boss, his mind is very unsettled. And when the first thing he say, it could be very negative. And after that, it will influence the rest. So when you isolate in the individual members to settle down, to focus on a topic, to write down their thoughts, this is the time that they are not influencing the others. Right. So moving down to step 2, where you deposit ideas, is where you hear the general direction of the group. Is the general direction of the group going more positive or negative, or they're neutral? This is where everyone has their say. So if you have 5 people, then you will take 5 minutes for this stage. Then after that, you then get into discussion, where you focus on any ideas that we have heard, and can you pick on the good ideas, right? And then ask that person, hey, that idea you said, can you elaborate some more? Give me one example what you said. What do you mean by that? This is a time of clarifying. This is time of elaboration. All right. And also always remember, you are building the ideas, you are developing ideas, you are not censoring, you are not criticizing one another. All right. And there's always a very important principle in brainstorming. No ideas are too stupid. Okay. Or there's no wacky ideas. All right. Even you may sound, the idea that's from someone that may sound so imaginary and daydreaming, that's always okay. Because in innovation, any wacky ideas combined with a practical implementation can even offer a better solution, a new solution. This is also about thinking out of the box. Everything could start from a wacky idea. After you're done about 10 to 15 minutes of elaboration, discussing, you are also looking at the ideas on 3 parameters or criteria, selection criteria, in terms of time, implementation time, in terms of cost, in terms of effectiveness. All right, then you can actually select your top 3 ideas. From the top 3 ideas, you then want to apply to the context. Now, what is the company focusing on? Sales revenue, how do you improve in next quarter? Then you want to apply whatever ideas you have into the context. And that will take you 15 to 20 minutes. And you want to use a visual way to explain your recommendation. So either you put down on a big piece of paper, draw a mind map, or you use Word or PowerPoint to illustrate your ideas. Last but not least is the S. The S is where you are presenting your solution, you're giving your recommendations. That's 5 to 7 minutes, right? So at this part, if you have captured the raw ideas on a pieces of paper, you can definitely document them, keep them as records, staple them, and of course put names and the date. In a bigger piece of visual or even a computer file, you can save it. That's where all this very valuable resource, your ideas from your members, are all kept in a record. All right. So when I ask many companies, hey, how do you keep track of your ideas? Then they say, oh, we just talk, and after that, we just, finish. There isn't any record keeping. Now, guess what? If you spend 1 hour or 2 hours on a particular problem, those are valuable raw ideas that you need to keep track of and document them. Yeah. So if I were to do the statistics on the ROI, what's the return on investment, so-called, on this new thinking technique, new brainstorm technique. The first step, individual thinking, 5 to 7 minutes. Now I'm going to put a estimate of ideas. If we conservatively say that everyone in this 5 minutes can come up 10 ideas, everyone. So you have 5 person, that will be 5 times 10, 50 ideas already, right? In just 5 minutes, 50 ideas. And then we go to step 2. Now, I spoke about step 2, where you could also add on more ideas. This is the time when if someone is speaking and you're listening, you can add on more ideas. So if you have 10, you can easily expand to another 15 or even 20, right? So conservatively, as we said, maybe it's just 10 times 5 is 50 ideas. Then you elaborate. Now, sometimes when you talk and discuss, you tend to to get some similar ideas. So let's get 20% off, give ourselves 20% discount. Then you're left with 40 ideas. And then you apply to the context, and then you showcase a recommendation. Now, if you look at the final total of time spent, it's between 40 to 50 minutes, somewhat close to 1 hour. How many ideas would you get? Conservatively 40 ideas, raw ideas, right? Maybe you can streamline down to top 3 quality ideas. Let me impress upon you that many times when I ask companies, how do you brainstorm? They will give me, oh, this is how we talk it out, we discuss. And how many ideas do you get out of it? Well, maybe less than 5 after spending 1 whole hour. Some even say 2 hours, we only have 6. If you expand from 5 ideas to 5 times more, 25, or even 50, 10 times more ideas, what do you think is the probability of achieving a quality idea in the broader base of ideas? Do you think the probability of quality idea is high or low? Right? So simple statistic, when you have a broader base of ideas to work with, you tend to have a higher probability of getting quality ideas. So do not underestimate how you can change your thinking model or your technique. You can actually get a higher proportion of quantity of ideas, thereby helping you to increase the chance of getting a quality idea. So the question here is that in our traditional brainstorm, as I mentioned, people tend to get argumentative because when they contribute an idea, if you see someone tend to critique it, you want to defend, right? You want to save face, you want to defend your ideas. So you want to talk it out, and then you extend that discussion and you censor ideas at the very start, right? So that's not very good. It's very time consuming. You only have a few ideas generated. And sometimes when the boss is there, your supervisor is there, you make sure that their ideas are the best, right? You tend to be saying a low profile, so boss always is right. Let the boss have his ideas. So in a new model, new thinking model, we want to make sure that everyone's ideas are contributed, can be contributed. And do not discard any wacky ideas, as I said just now. All right. And sometimes if the timing is just stretched too long and people are talking, those quiet ones may have very good ideas, but because they don't have a chance to speak up, then they tend to forget their ideas. And because they're not captured on paper. So with this new thinking technique, you then see, all right, the fact that everyone thinks differently, and this is very unique. You want to collect those unique ideas. And you shouldn't filter ideas. No ideas are too wacky. Every one of the ideas should be documented and written down. As I mentioned, focus on a quantity so that you can have a quality. No seniority preference, right? No ranking preference. Basically, everyone is equal. Your ideas are all recorded. You can take, everyone has 1 minute. Give same time to deposit ideas, avoid the influencing the whole group, and they are recorded on paper. So by just simply changing your thinking technique, you are able to achieve so-called higher productivity. And our government tends to tell us, do things faster, do things better, do things cheaper. And this is one of the ways to do things faster, better, cheaper, right? Just change your thinking model. You can actually achieve more. Now, if I say that your mind is like a parachute works best when it's open, right? So we need to really adopt an open mindset, right? You may have been get very used to your old thinking habits because whether you're conditioned in school or habitually you have been thinking this way, the question is, can I now ask myself, the world has changed so fast, right? In the VUCA video we watched just now, the very important quote that was stated is, if the rate of change externally is much faster than the rate of change internally, the end is in sight. So when you know that there is a strong impact in to yourself on yourself, then the question is, how can I adopt that change? Start from your mindset. Be open to changes, be open to having a new thinking technique, be open to learn new thinking tools, all right? So that is the message. Now, I also want to impress upon you that we do have thinking errors, all right? We do have a natural tendency of thinking errors. What are those? There are three. I'm not sure whether you heard of this. People talk about selective hearing, selective hearing. So it is true. We do have confirmation bias. When we have our own opinions, when we talk to someone, when we communicate, we tend to slant towards that opinion that we have. And that also means that when we want to exchange and interact with someone, we tend to be picking up on those opinions of another person that is aligned with yours, right? That is a very natural tendency. And we also tend to be reactive. And that's because our brain has an emotional instinct. All right, what do I mean? Our brain is designed in such a way, or I call it program, the default setting of our brain is to protect our lives. So when the brain senses danger, threatening signals, right, it will immediately evoke an emotional response. And that response is either to feel fear, to get anxious, to sense the danger, and to take action immediately, to run for cover, all right, or to stay and fight, or to freeze, do nothing, right? So that's very instinctive response. That's why when something occurs to us, we tend to have a very programmed condition of reacting to that situation. Sometimes it's to fight back, to say that, oh, that's not right, you know, that's your idea is not right, all right, or conflict with mine, things like that. It's reacting. And last but not least, assumptive. We tend to be very assumptuous because of our beliefs and our own perspective that have brought us through so many years. And this assumptive thinking will tend to limit our potential. So in terms of the first one, selective thinking, as I mentioned, we do have all the natural tendencies to interpret and pick up information that favors us, right? And we tend to also gather evidence to prove our right instead of prove our wrong, isn't it? All right, so down here says we only remember details that uphold our beliefs and we ignore information that challenges our belief. So those are very natural tendencies. In terms of reactive thinking, I mentioned, because of instinctive emotions, our conditioned mindset, because that's the way we have been doing things, and also how the external forces have threatened us, right? So we react to it before we say, hey, hang on, let me stay cool. Let me settle my emotion first. Let me breathe. All right, settle down my emotions, and then ask the first question. How does this affect me? All right. When you have an internal discussion in your head, your brain will switch gears from emotions to cognitive. All right. That's where your cognitive will come in. Your rational thinking will come in. Say, if I were to fight back, I would have this consequence, right? So it actually manages your response. So in this question here is that if life is described as a run, all right, the journey of running, do you think it's a sprint or do you think it's a marathon, right? So that's another strong reason why you need to be less reactive but more rational thinking. Yeah, the third thinking error that we tend to have is that we feel, all right, that we can't do some things. And many of us will say, I'm not that creative, right? I always forget things very easily. I'm just not good at singing. I'm just not good at composing. So when you have that assumptive thinking, you will restrict your potential. You will adopt a very closed mindset rather than an open mindset, right? So we need to remove all these thinking errors. That will be our first step to step out of their old habit. All right, the way that we have been thinking so much, the conditioning. So we want to say, can we try a new thinking 2.0, a new mindset? All right, it's just nice. We have already reached 1 hour of a webinar. We're going to have a 5 minutes break. Okay, so this is a time that you want to go to the toilet, you want to drink and all that. But I also want you to scan this QR code. You don't need to do this now, but you can do it at your own time. It will take about 20 minutes for you to assess your creativity level. All right, so you can QR code it. Later on after the webinar, you can actually assess yourself in a very formal way in these 5 areas, all right, of creativity. All right, so we're going to have a 5 minutes break and we'll come back soon. See you.
Thank you very much, Eric. So of course, everybody, the time now is about 10:01. So 5 minutes, I guess we'll see you about 10:06 thereabout. So take a break. See you later. Hi, everybody. We hope that you're back. Eric, you're back online as well, am I right?
Yes, I am.
Great, fantastic. So everybody, we hope you've been enjoying yourselves thus far. So of course, Eric will continue his own session. Once again, I see that some of you are directing questions to the chat function. Can I please have your assistance? If you have any questions, please put it in the Q&A box so that we don't miss it out, because you know the chat moves quite quickly. It can be easy for us to miss out your questions accidentally, all right? So thank you very much. I'll hand you over back to Eric. Eric, your turn.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming back. And as I mentioned just now before we go for the break, this is a very interesting assessment on knowing how creative you are on the 5 different areas. Okay, so you can take a photograph, or there's actually a link at the chat. You can just go online. Now, the next activity I would like to invite you to participate is a drawing activity. Okay, so could you take a blank piece of paper and with some color pens with you, let's do a drawing activity, okay? And I'm going to give you about 1 minute to finish this exercise, all right? So when you're ready, let's do it. Thirty more seconds. Ten more seconds. Okay, time's up. Now, thank you for participating in this drawing activity. Now, I want to ask you a quick question, right? So when I set you off in this activity, what was that immediate thought that you have in your mind? All right. Was it like, yeah, I'm so happy I'm going to do something like drawing? Or that response could be, no, I can't draw. Really? Draw? I have not been drawing so many years. Suddenly ask me to draw? No way, right? So was it a more anticipative kind of reaction, or it's more like, I want to stay away from this because I'm just not good at it, right? So investigate your instinctive thought, your that immediate response. Was it more towards, yes, I look forward to drawing, or please don't ask me to do something I'm not good at, all right? So take that moment to ask yourself, all right? Next question, before I go on to that drawing activity to give you so-called an answer. Singaporeans always like to have a, what's the model answer, teacher, right? So after that, I'll tell you. I'd like to ask you this question. What is the most important quality for CEOs? What do you think it is? All right, could you just put down in the chat? All right. What do you think companies, corporations look for when they choose their leaders? Okay. Yes, I have answers like leadership, of course, compassion, empathy, vision, vision, innovation, listening skills, inspire, growth mindset. Wow, all of you are very good thinkers. Foresight. inspiration, collaborative skills, and so on and so forth. Very good, very good. Now, guess what? From a survey done by this magazine called the Fast Company, as you can see on screen, creativity is the #1 quality that companies look for. All right, having an open mindset, having a creative thinking mindset is key. It's even higher than integrity. It's even higher than global thinking, even dedication, humility, and all that. Now, quite interesting, isn't it? In this disruption, in this disruptive world, all right, when you hire the next person for your company, ask yourself, what do you really want to find in that person? What competency? Is it something that the person already have that you're picking it up, or you're looking at grooming this person for this quality? Now, those are the questions. And would you want to understand how creative this person is? Now, if we go into companies like the Google, you then can see certain environment, all right? What do you see out of these photographs? Firstly, you see colors, isn't it? You see lots of colors. You see space, all right, for people to relax, take a break. And you may even see playground, right? A place that you can play, enjoy. Yeah, you can see this pool stable and all that. Now, why do a huge company like Google set up their office to be like a playground? Ask yourself. Why aren't Google like any traditional companies that they have a boardroom, they have gray walls, right? Tables that are arranged neatly and all that, and make sure that staff report work with a formal dressing and must turn up at 9, only can get off work at 6, you know, that kind of stuff. They don't do that at all, right? They change the rules. And even in Facebook, they allow people to bring their skateboards, even some of them bring pets. They have walls for people to do graffitis, and lots of bright, vibrant colors, and food, lots of drinks and food and all that. So what are they getting at? And if I may impress upon you, they fully understand that the brain needs to have the left brain skills and the right to synergize. It's not just the left. It's just not being logical and rational and be logical and able to analyze things. No, it is about recognizing the right brain, which is basically on the colors, the music, all right, to bring that up imagination. Because with good imagination, that's how the two sides can come together, right, for higher creativity. Now, back to the drawing activity. Now, I believe many of you, as I've done this activity, would draw a house that is a rectangle and then a roof, all right, that looks like a straight line roof, right? So if my scoring system is like that, if you have drawn the house 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, meeting these conditions, you only get 1 point, because that only shows that you're so good at following instructions, okay? And make sure your number 3, you need to have doors. It's a plural doors, all right? You need to draw more than 1 door, all right? In this diagram, it's just 1 door. Usually ask them, you must add another door. And then you need to have a sky and a surrounding garden. Now, the bonus points comes when you have more details towards your drawing, right? So for example, if you have drawn your roof that comes with a chimney, and that chimney has smoke that comes out of it, and then you may even put some ash, you know, in the sky, those will score you 2 points, all right? So meeting the 5 instructions will give you only 1 point, but if you add on details, will get you an additional 2 points. Now check your drawing now. In your windows, have you drawn any extra details like, do you have curtains, all right? Does your window have curtains? Does your curtains have patterns on it? If you have that, 2 points. Is your window closed or shut, all right? If you have drawn an open window, that's an additional 1 point, all right? If usually you draw a shut window, then it says that's no point, just that 1 point for all the 5 conditions. So the doors, okay, the doors. Do you draw a peeping hole in your drawer on your door? All right. Do you have a doorbell? Do you have a mailbox somewhere at the site? Right. If you are all this, 1 point for each. 1 point for peeping hole, 1 point for the mailbox. All right. And okay, then do you have a pathway leading to the door? If you have pathway leading the door, that's 2 points for you. Okay. Now, if you draw the sky and the sky is a sun and all that, well, that's normal. It has to have clouds and sky. In your sky, do you draw aeroplane? Right? If you drew aeroplane, that's now 2 points. Do you have birds flying? Right? If you have birds flying, that's 1 point. Now, some of you may have drawn differently, like instead of the sun, you draw the moon. Wow, if you draw the moon, then you have 3 points for that. Do you draw a different weather instead of sunny? Maybe you have drawn rain, storm, whatever, all right? That gives you another 2 points. Then draw the surrounding gardens, all right? What do you see? All right, if you have normally trees, plants, maybe flowers, that's normal. Huh? Do you draw a pond, all right? If you have pond, 2 points. Inside the pond, do you have ducks swimming? All right, another 1 point. Do you have fishes? Another 1 point, right? Do you have a playground? Extra things like playground, all right? 2 points. Do you have a garage? Another 2 points, okay? Now, what am I trying to get at? And some of you will say, hey, I only have 1 minute. How can I do so many things? Now, no problem, all right? For some people, even in 1 minute, all right, if their brain is able to put down their imagination, they can even draw details. They can look at things in a different perspective. And I do have some students that draw a dog house, all right? Traditionally, we think that it's a human house, but why are you saying it's a human house? It could be a dog house. It could be a tree house. It could even be a space station in the space, right? And it really doesn't need to be a rectangular house. So we come to the point of talking about measuring creativity. And there's this professor, Paul Torrance, he said that IQ test that we are so accustomed to is not the way to measure, it's not the only way to measure intelligence, right? There's also another way to measure creative intelligence. And he said there are 4 areas. He's talked about speed, all right? How fast are you to generate the new ideas? And we're talking about new, unique ideas, not ideas that that another person will typically think of. Like just now I talked about the house. Most of us will look at the house as rectangular. If I draw a sky, I usually draw a sun, right? So we need to be fast and we need to be unique. We also need to look at things in different angles, all right? As I mentioned, some of them would even draw a house that is 45 degrees at the side, right? Or top view, right? Or a house that is not the regular house, right? As I mentioned, shoe house, tree house, and all that. It has to be original, sometimes even eccentric, right? Elaborate in details. Okay, so now that you know that this is how creativity is being measured, the good news is it can be trained. Creativity can be nurtured, all right? Some people may be born with some creative instincts, but the good news is if you do know how to measure creativity, you may have a low level now, low score, but it can be trained and you just need to activate that in your brain and then you can activate your creative thinking. So if I were to summarize the concept of creativity, some people would say, well, it is about coming things new, but not necessarily just new. It could also be how to update or upgrade the old things, right, to make things faster, better, and things like that. That's also creative. For example, McDonald's that serve hamburgers. That is nothing new, but hamburgers last time were being served in restaurant, and that usually take like 5 minutes or 7 minutes to come out a hamburger, but McDonald's can do it in 1 minute. So the process of making hamburgers is their creative process. Then it is also about looking at things that not everyone sees the same, right? So commonly how people see it, you are actually looking at it differently. You see it a different angle. And also it's talking about so-called breaking out of the norm, right? So-called taking risks to step out of compliance, right? So this is the concept of creativity. Now, Peter Drucker summed it up very well, because you can have creativity that is very wacky and sometimes pointless. Not sure you have seen certain inventions by by the Japanese that they came up certain funny items, but really no use, no point, right? So there is still considered creative, but what then is applied creativity? Applied creativity is talking about it must generate a value for the society, that people can use it, all right? And applied creativity is also a branch of innovation, all right? Getting innovation. Now, in today's world, as things are happening so fast, as we talk about the external environment changing so fast, if we don't change internally, the company will face decline. You yourself would also face redundancy, right? So before that happens, all right, so importantly is to understand you need to start doing it now. And he also said the best way to predict the future is to create it. Now, the person that had really done it so well was Steve Jobs, right? He came out an iPhone. Of course, people said iPhone is nothing new. Yeah, but he came out the way he put the whole package, all right? And he promoted and marketed and tell people this is how phone in the next century, in the next generation should be, all right? He's promoting that, and he's creating your consumption. Yeah. So Elon Musk is also another one, right? That they create the future instead of being dictated, right? Now, I have a story for you. This story is about when I was younger. I was working in a company. I remember I was in the pantry, and then the CEO came to the pantry, and he was holding a packet of noodles. And then he said, Eric, help me. I'm very hungry. I need to warm this up. Can you help me with it? So, okay. Then I said, yes, sir. I'm going to do it quickly. Prompto. All right. So I took his noodles, put it in a bowl, and then put inside the microwave. Then I tried to turn it on. It's not working. I pressed the button here and there, still not working. I look at the electricity plug. It's turned on, but it's just not working. So I got panicked. I said, what to do now? Wow. Quickly call someone. Hey, how to solve this problem? Then someone said, maybe go to downstairs and find another company, ask them whether they have a microwave. So I said, okay. Then I ran down, and then I tried to knock on every company, the neighbor company. I said, do you have a microwave? Let me use it. So in the end, I managed to warm it up. Then later on, when that problem is solved, I told the HR people, I said, hey, the microwave is broken. All right, can you replace it? So they call out the vendor came and replaced. Now, the next moment, the vendor came in. The vendor unplugged it, and they saw that the wire behind was unplugged from the appliance. So everything was okay when they plug it back to the oven and turn on the electricity. It's okay. So ask yourself, if you were me at the moment when there was a problem you face, you wanted to make sure that it is solved, you wanted to take action quickly, you could have forgotten to run through a very important step, right, in problem solving. So what is that important step in problem solving? Well, Einstein says, if I have 60 minutes to solve a problem, I would spend how many minutes thinking about the problem and how many minutes thinking about solutions? So could you help me to break down that 60 minutes? How much time do you think Einstein would use to think about the problem, and how much minutes do you think he will use to find the solutions? Right, put it in the chat box. Wow. People putting 59 and 1, 55 and 5, 40 and 20, okay. 1 and 59, 60, 40, 20 to 80. To be very safe, 20, 80, yeah? Okay, good. 30, 30, all right. Okay, 45, 15. right? I would think majority of us would think, well, to play safe, okay, a larger time, maybe 60 or up to 80 minutes, 80% to be spent on thinking about the problem, and 20% of time spent on solutions. Safest to go 80-20. Yeah. What he said was 55 and 5. Bonus points for those who have answered correctly. You may have heard this before. What he's trying to say here is that it is so important to analyze the symptoms and the root of the problem. Solutioning is actually very easy. Well, he's saying that because he's been a very creative person. But some of us who may not be habitually activating our creative thinking, we find it tougher, so we need more time. But it's okay, right? It's not that we are saying that we're all like Einstein, but when we condition our brain to be more creative, and how to be more creative, first step, activate colors, all right? Activate drawing, because drawing helps to build up your right brain, activate your right brain, right? And imagine things more, right? This is all the conditions or factors that you could help you to boost up or activate your right brain. And as we are very conditioned to write our notes or even our report, print in one color, all right? If we do any pictures, our boss will scold us, you know. They will say, hey, this is not a kindergarten here, you know. This is a very formal report. You must only have words, and the words must one word after another, in a very sequential, linear way. So definitely at those situations, you need to produce your work in that way, your thinking in that way. But if you could, at your own personal thinking time, to activate that, the colors and the drawings and all that, which helps you to daydream and imagine better, this is how you can build yourself with the creative thinking, right? So be very conscious. We may not be like Einstein, but we could nurture our creative thinking by introducing colors and pictures to our note making, our thinking. That helps us to build up the right brain skills. So with that, it's really very easy to come up more ideas. And of course, with the right tools. Now, the difference between problem solving and solution finding, there's actually a difference. Problem solving traditionally targets at once the problem is solved, the job is done. But if you ask yourself, that could be the first objective. But what if there's a second, third, fourth, and fifth different ways of solving that problem? Would you want more solutions than just having one solution to solve that problem? If you can generate more different ideas, more solutions, would you want to go there? So that's called solution finding, focusing on solution. How many solutions can you get, rather than saying that once the problem is solved, the job is done, right? So I would really encourage you to go for solution finding. And there are many solution finding tools. And one of the solution finding tools, as I talked about, is just now the ideas framework, right? The new way of brainstorming. Right, so this is just to say what's the difference between creativity or innovation. So I mentioned that when creativity can be applied, you're then going towards innovation. Innovation takes the whole process of getting the resources in and making sure the packaging and all that, and it can be used and adopted by people, right? That becomes an innovation, all right? And let me present to you a problem. And this problem is about the restaurant. So as we all know, the circuit breaker measures have been lifted. This company, this restaurant, the sales did not improve, right? And they are facing a dire problem, because if they don't boost their sales, they will close their business. And it's such a pity because they have been operating for 20 years. So going through a problem definition matrix, as we all know just now about finding the root of the problem is so important. You need to spend a longer time, right? Don't just look at the symptoms and believe that that is the root, right? Symptoms are just the surface and the signals to tell you like just now the microwave oven, cannot work. Means what? Replace? No. Check properly, check properly and understand the root. Is it the electricity? Is it the buttons that's wrong? Is it the tray inside not moving, got stuck, whatever? Understand all that. Now there is a matrix for you. So for example, what we know is known as the facts. In this problem, what do we know? All right. In this problem, what are the things we think we know, the assumptions? And what we don't know, all right? What we don't know is called ignorance, all right? So on the facts of the matter is, this particular restaurant has been 20 years. It should have regular customer pool. Now the government has lifted the COVID rules, and how long did it last? When would it start? And then things like that. Those are the facts. The fact of the matter is also very low sales patronage. Few people are coming in, right? That's a fact. The running costs, right? You still have to pay the bills and all that. There's subsidy and grants have been finished, all right? So you still have to run the costs. And there is a possibility of closure in 2 months' time. That's the deadline. So these are the facts. Put it down in that column. Now, what are the assumptions? Maybe immediately you would think that if we could reach out to our regular customers, that's one way of bringing them back because they've tasted our food, they know our quality. Well, assumption is, well, we could also quickly offer food discounts and promotions. And maybe we need to look into reducing running costs, retrench our staff, or even reduce the product on the menus. And we have to put some budget to advertise. Those will be assumptions. Not proven right or not proven wrong yet, but this is what we quickly assume. Now, what are the things we may not know? Possibly if you didn't do a market survey or ask around, you may not know that the customers' food preference and habits have changed dramatically. Many of them have preferred to eat at home because of healthier choice and of course safety, right? Then your competitors may already been doing a lot of aggressive tie-ups with delivery apps and things like that, all right? So these are the things that we need to know because it may be our blind spot. So when you put your problem definition in this matrix, you then have a deeper level, another dimension towards looking at your problem. Don't just look at it in one perspective because most of us will engage the facts, also engage the assumptions. We may not even engage the things we don't know. Now, things we don't know, you then have to interact with your stakeholders, right? No point discussing among yourself because you're in this business for 20 years. So how do we achieve the things we don't know, right? Talk to your stakeholders, right? You can talk to customers, you can talk to your partners, suppliers. You can even be a consumer of other competing food products and find out, right? So these are the different dimensions. And once you achieve your problem definition, you then move into the 4-step, all right? The 4-step innovation process, which is the first part. Just now we talk about understanding it, all right? The problem definition. And then we get into ideation. Now, ideation is the part that where the so-called creative process starts, right? So like Einstein said, 55 minutes is problem definition, 5 minutes is solutioning, right? This is the part. Now, in the early 1 hour, we have done an ideation, which is called the ideas framework. It is originated from this thinking model that's called generative thinking, starting from one person, move into small groups, and then from a small group to a larger group of idea generation. So you kind of move from one step to this, to a groups, and then move to a bigger group. So you combine all this. So that's one way of ideation. And then after you got the ideas, you get into analysis, which is also called the evaluating your ideas based on certain criteria. Whether is it time, do you have enough time to implement? How much would it cost, right? High cost, low cost, and how effective, right? What is the success rate, right? These are the measurements for your analysis. And then you could implement and take action, right? And then after you've done this 4 steps, you also want to ask yourself, is this validated, right? Validate your findings. You can validate it through certain tools that you use or talking to certain consultants or whatever. So this is a guide of the 4-step innovation process. Now, let me also share with you 3 very simple solution finding techniques. All right. So I already talked about generative thinking. Yeah? So you always start from the individual, right? Do not underestimate that one person with the ideas, right? That one person brings with his perspective, his background, his training and experience. Do not underestimate all this. So very importantly, get that individual to put down those ideas. And after that's done, you get into small groups. At the small groups, you can exchange and interact and discuss the ideas, right? You could also get into selection, all right? Then guess what? You could also activate another second group who has done the same process of individual ideation, small group discussion. Then you have group A, group B, combining what their findings are, and that will become the entire kind of organization or department level, right? So if you have a department of 20 people, the advice here is that you can separate the 20 people in groups of 5. Then you have 4 groups, okay? So don't get too large. Don't get 20 people come together and brainstorm, right? It would be better to chop it down, chunk it into 5 people in each group, group A, B, C, D. Then you say timing is like that, or follow the ideas model, 5 minutes on individual, write down your thoughts, and then you go into deposit your ideas, all right? The 5 people, each one would take turns to contribute the ideas to the pool, and then elaborate, discuss, and apply the context, right? And then when it comes to the S, that's where group A showcase, group B showcase, group C showcase, group D showcase. Then you have 4 recommendations. And then as a management, you can actually combine the 4, combine the best 2, whatever, right? You can pick the best. So that's how generative thinking is if you have a big group. Now, in terms of the 3-stage ideation, usually this is used in design thinking, right? So the first stage is to focus on what is so obvious, all right? What are the ideas that are so obvious? Oh, of course, advertising, yeah. When we promote more, that's very obvious, right? When we promote more word of mouth, more people will know us, there's higher chance of people coming to our restaurant. And after you finish stage 1, then you said, okay, now we put that aside, we reset the second stage. Come out as crazy ideas as you can. Okay, now let's jot that ideas down, and after that we'll come back to take turns and go around, right? So the wacky ideas could be, get ourselves to dance, get ourselves to sing song, allow the people to play games, right? Things they have not done before in the restaurant, right? Very wacky. Get our customers to dress in certain colors and then they get a special voucher, whatever, right? So as I mentioned, no ideas are too wacky, right? So when you finish your wacky ideas, stage 3, combine 1 and 2, right? So it is to say that what's so obvious and what's so wacky, find a middle ground, combine the 2, okay? So it could be getting customers to dress in certain colors, all right? Then basically explain why, all right? Oh, because we are doing this color purple week, right? Color purple resembles something, right? So that's strongly associated with the brand, all right? So when you rationalize that wacky idea, then you have more acceptance, all right, from your stakeholders. Now, the third step is reverse thinking, and I like this very much because it's very easy. Reverse thinking, all right? What is it? You basically want to reverse the topic into the opposite. So for example, how do we boost sales in the next 2 months? All right, that is the formal original topic. Flip it to the opposite. And what is that? How do we lose our customer, or how do we lose sales in the 2 months, in 2 months the quickest way, right? That is the reverse. So what ideas will come to your mind? Lose customer. Wow, so easy. Make sure that our service is poor. Make sure we charge very high. Make sure the restaurant stinks. Make sure it's unhygienic. All this you can come and think of, because the brain is a very critical brain, right? The brain can come up many critical ideas very easily, right? Very judging ideas. All right. So once you come up with the whole long list, combine them. All right. With those negative so-called ideas, it's now for you to discuss how do you flip it, right? So you talk about charge very high. How do you flip it? Right? You can say, well, charge very cheap. No, that's not really it, right? You can say, okay, we may charge high, but we need to pack in the value. The problem is, if you can't find a lot of value packed in, then maybe you have to tone down the price. Right? That's one way of rationalizing it, right? So you said an unhygienic kitchen or whatever, make sure that is qualified or certified by authorities that your restaurant is super high levels of hygiene. Right? Things like that. So you flip the negative to positive. All right, that's how it's done. Reverse thinking is very easy. Okay. All right, so this is what I've just mentioned. Right? If you have negative ideas like your staff is so rude, the food tastes so bad, food comes late, very easy, one whole long list, 20, 50, then you now flip it to the other way. How do I make this become so much better? Right, so much better. Those will be very good areas for you to brainstorm. All right. I want to introduce to you a visual ideation tool. And this tool is called AOA. All right. And on the right part of the screen, you can see there's a QR code that gets you to the website. You can sign up an account free. And this is a very, I would say, most of the collaborative tool, like Trello or Slack or Monday.com, those tools are very left-brain, if I may say, are very structured. All right, it focuses on the tasks and implementation. Right, very good for those. But AOA is the tool that I myself have used it that helps you to develop the ideas before you get into the task management, before you implement that task. So generating ideas is so important, right? So that's why they have visual tools. You can do concept maps, flow charting, you can do radial maps, all different methods, visual tools. And you can even do it accordingly to a thinking technique template or thinking model, all right? Such as the 5 Ps of marketing and 7S, for example, right? So the templates are also inside there. Now, let me play a video so you can also understand the overall of the visual tool.
Where you can brainstorm. Hi, we're AOA, an all-in-one digital workspace where you can brainstorm ideas, work together and get things done. At AOA, our flexible technology ensures that people can work in a way that suits them and collaborate with ease, no matter where they are. We help teams and individuals to build a link between creativity and productivity, giving them the tools they need to work together and turn their ideas into actionable tasks. Mind maps are the core of AOA. Their inherent structure and emphasis on visuals make them a powerful tool for people to brainstorm ideas and add clarity to their work. AOA's mind maps enable users to change the background color and style of their maps, collapse branches to reduce distractions, use speed keys for keyboard navigation and control. Use our idea bank to save ideas not yet ready to be organized. You can also export your mind maps as Word documents, PDFs and images. Project management in AOA is anything but rigid. With the option to choose your preferred style, teams can work seamlessly together in the way that suits them. So, whether you want your to-do list to be highly visual, traditional or time-orientated, AOA has you covered. Our personal planner is your space to organize tasks from across any task board in AOA into 3 categories: now, next, or soon, so you can easily prioritize your work and stay focused on what's important. No team can operate without one, so we added digital whiteboards to the mix. This is a highly intuitive drag-and-drop functionality, plus the ability to organize sticky notes, checklists, and more. You can also add images, file attachments, flowcharts, and much more to your whiteboard, making it the perfect space to gather information and stay inspired. We are committed to building powerful software that supports people globally. providing a flexible solution that everyone can use to be more creative and productive in our ever-changing world.
Okay, so that is a visual tool and a collaborative tool that you can use it remotely in Teams, right? And basically, let me just get on to the actual tool. Yes. Now, what you see here is the Iowa tool. Once you sign up an account, you would see this. So let me start with the left-hand side. So the left-hand side are the collaborators, my team members, right? So most of the time right now, we use the social media, that's WhatsApp, right? In terms of our working, our sharing of files and, giving each other instructions and things like that. Now, guess what? Those social media like WhatsApp, they are public domain and they may not be very secure. So if you use a highly secured AUA platform, you basically so-called limit their exposure to security risks because they do have high levels of service levels, and security level is one of them. So on the left, you can see you can message the person, you can attach files, okay? You can attach Google Doc, even sketch something, emojis and all that. From your conversation with this person, you could also create a group chat. You can also do video conferencing. All right. So if you want to start a Yoa video meeting or you start a Zoom meeting, also possible. You just need to click on that person and then you request a Zoom meeting or video meeting, right? Then you can attach a task. Okay. So this is the chat function. Now then you want to think about doing your own scheduling. Okay. So you could click on this. A scheduler. So if you collaborate with others, they may send you certain tasks and those tasks will be dropped into the unplanned task, right? All these are unplanned on the left-hand column. So you run through your task in the early morning and then you said, okay, maybe this one, I move it to now, I must do now. And then those things that have now all done already or not yet done, move to next. So that's where you can schedule your timing and your priority. It's up to you. So I mentioned about it is a very good ideation tool, right? So you could create a whiteboard. If you are only doing your own brainstorming thinking, all right, you can create a whiteboard, or you are ready to start with collaborating with others. You can also choose template, or you can create a blank whiteboard. So let's say I choose 4P of marketing and I create the whiteboard. Then what you see here is that the template of 4 Ps, it will already be structured for you, right? So it's very quick for you to drag and drop ideas, all right? You can drag and drop ideas. You can put post-it notes, all right? Put post-it notes and then type the ideas. And once you've done this, you could also convert this into task. So that's why I said it's seamless. From your idea generation, you like the ideas, you collaborate with people, finalized it, and then you set it off like a task, right? And when you set off like a task, you basically would put timings and all that to your flow, right? And you also can do mind mapping, okay? So mind maps, you can pick templates like this one, 8-step leadership. So you would create a template for you already, or you can draw from a blank, start from scratch mind map, right? Then the good thing about this is you could invite people to your whiteboard or your mind map to participate, right? You just need to invite a person, okay? Share this with a person and type the person's email, all right? And then the person will be added to the task. And then the person can real time add another branch or second branch and things like that, okay? And from the mind map, you could also convert it into a Gantt chart, all right? That means, all right, let's say, yeah, you can also convert into a radial map. So guess what? With that one information, that one time that you put in the information, whichever visual format you want, you can just click a button and you change that visual format. This is because some people are used to looking at mind map. Some people are used to looking at another format like this radio map, and some people are used to looking at flow charting. So it means that different people preferences can now have a seamless interaction and collaboration. Okay, that's very powerful of it. Yeah. So sign up for free. Then you can also use this tool to take part in the challenge that I'm setting you guys with. So let me share with you what's that challenge. Okay. All right. So this challenge is actually put inside that presentation deck. All right. After this webinar, you can download my presentation slides. And this slide is inside. This is talking about just now the restaurant. All right. ABC restaurant now has suffered badly for the past 3 months. So their sales are declining. So you're hired as a consultant to think of a solution for them. And the restaurant owner is flexible and is willing to hear from any ideas you have. Use one of the solution finding methods. Now, the 3 methods I talk about, one is ideas model, so-called the generative thinking. Second is the 3-stage ideation model, or the reverse brainstorm method. These are the 3, choose one, apply that into this case study, okay? If you are doing it alone, then recommendation is go for reverse brainstorming, reverse thinking, so that allows you to do it on your own. What I would need you to do is to document your methods, all right, in a Word document or a PowerPoint. It's up to you. Show me that you have walked through this process, you come out your raw ideas. And
Eric,
then,
are you showing a screen? Because we can't see it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, my apologies. Let me go back to that slide. Yeah. So I mentioned about the post-webinar contest, yeah? Yeah, so this post-webinar contest, this case study, is inserted in the PowerPoint deck, the slides, okay? So you can have it, and I talk about the restaurant problem, right? How do you help them to increase business by 20%, right? So I also said that there are 3 solution methods I've covered in this webinar, right? So the first one is the ideas model, which is a group brainstorming session. So how do you do? You can enter this contest by yourself, individual, or you can get hold of 3 or 4 people in your family members and participate in this to walk through this generative thinking, the ideas model you have. Step 1, individual thinking. Step 2, deposit. Step 3, elaborate. Steps 4 is the apply and then showcase, right? So you can go through the ideas model if you have a group of people. Otherwise, I would recommend you to use the reverse brainstorming for individual. Yeah. All right. Again, this slide is also inside your PowerPoint deck, right? So this also gives you clear instructions of how to do it. The optional one is refer to the G here. If you use AOA, you can screenshot that. You can export it in the image file, paste it in your Word document to submit to us, all right? So this is going to be inside your PowerPoint deck. I wouldn't want to go too much details here. The main thing, as I said, describe the step-by-step of how you carry out your ideation. So you can either use diagram and then a few words to illustrate. And I also want to see your ideas. You can list it down, your 10 or 20 ideas listed, the raw ideas, okay? Now, as I said, after you learn so much in any webinar, please remember to apply. Otherwise, many of these techniques can be forgotten, right? So do encourage to take part. Then you can apply this situation, right? This case study. And winners, the one who submitted the prize, the submission, and we will be the judge of it. You'll win $100 NTUC voucher. How am I going to judge it is effectiveness of your thinking, 50%. How you have applied the solution finding methods, 35%, your visual presentation, 15%, whether you have include images, pictures, or using the AOA tool, right? Now, this means that I've come to the end of my webinar, and I will be looking at your questions shortly. So let me leave you with my last quote. Basically, we are only limited by our own imagination. Nothing is impossible. Okay, nothing is impossible. Thank you very much for your time. I do hope that you've enjoyed this session, and I will be answering your question right now quickly, and I'll pass the time back to Karine.
Thank you very much, Eric. Eric, do you want to look at the questions first, if any? Because I see that
Okay.
I think your assistants have been helping to answer. We
Sure.
still have a few
Some.
more.
Okay.
Some of them, they are pretty interested in Iowa. They're asking about, is it free, or is it limited features? Perhaps you'd like to touch upon that.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Karine. I have a question here is that how would you conceptualize an idea, and what does one have to look out for during the process? Conceptualizing an idea comes with your own way of looking at certain situation based on your perspective, right? So perspective, and some people ask, how can I be creative? Now, it is not easy to say you can be creative overnight, but getting creative or being creative is a lifestyle, right? So one of those things is, for example, you need to be very observant. You want to be having an open mindset where you are curious about things around you. You want to make sure that you have a notebook with you all the time. If you see anything going around, you have questions, write them down. The reason why the notebook is so important, or even your handphone, you can have a notepad there, is to capture all these questions, and questions will generate ideas and answers to that. So it is a lifestyle of leading a creative thinking habits, right? So that's why I want to say conceptualizing an idea comes from individual lifestyle of creative habits. Then it comes with organization. Maybe you'll have certain problem-solving framework, right? So just now I covered, define the problem first, and then analyzed it and all that. So the 4 steps innovation process is also one framework. Okay. Then you said can show the 4 step. That one is all inside the PowerPoint deck for you to download. So no problem. The cost of the AOA, I would actually encourage you to download for free. Use it first. All right. Don't buy it immediately, because if it only meets certain part of your needs, then because it's a monthly subscription, right? Roughly the price point is about $10 per month, right? So it's a monthly subscription. However, if you download for free, you are limited to 10 task boards. You can only create 10, right? Anything beyond that, they'll ask you to subscribe, right? Who owns AOA? It's actually a UK company. It used to be the company that developed iMindMap, which is a software for mind mapping, right? Yeah. Go into the website and check out the free features and all that. I think, Karine, they asked about the PowerPoint deck. Is it 1 week later?
We will share the recording online about 2 weeks later.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So if you are download AOA for individual, that's good. When it gets to collaborating, then you have to consider whether you want to purchase subscription as a group. You can get discounts if you mention my name, because I'm also the authorized trainer for that. Down here asks, can AI and machine learning be more creative than the human in future? Good question, Randy. A lot of people would think, and I tend to slant towards anything is possible, even with machines, because the one that drives behind the machine is the human brain, right? The human brain will solve every problem when it comes to making machine become more creative. So I do slant towards that, that machine can be creative. And you can see AI composing songs, even painting and all that. These are creative works, but they can still do it now. Yeah. Okay, then the questions on NTUC Learning Hub, I think that you can refer there is answered. What is the weakness of creative thinking during problem solving? Is there such a thing? Weakness, I don't want to say weakness, but barriers, all right? What are the barriers to creative thinking? I would say there's also external and internal barriers. External is basically if you put your group into a brainstorm room that is dull, that is not inviting and doesn't stimulate the senses, then you will see people very cramped up, very tense, all right? When the brain is tense, it will be locked up, all right? You will be finding it very hard to imagine and expand. So I would also propose step out of the office, find a place somewhere, external place to do your brainstorm. Where people are more relaxed, the brain can daydream much better, right? So external. And definitely internal is to tell them that, oh, don't worry, any ideas are okay. Any wacky ideas are still good ideas. Don't censor them, right? Give people permission to be creative. Yeah, so that's how I see it. Okay, thank you so much, Anthony, for your compliments. I think I've answered all, yeah? Karen, yeah, I think I've answered all. Thank you.